What caused you to believe in the protein theory? And what if the foundation of the protein theory, as it relates to nutrition, is totally wrong? And what if protein-rich foods cause human illness and not build, as the concept has been for many generations? My proposition is that your concepts surrounding the essential nature of protein-rich foods are directly or indirectly shaped by marketers and politicians. Marketing agencies and big corporations fund ads to convince you that you need disease-causing protein-rich products. Now, this is not dietary advice or medical advice, strictly for informational and educational purposes only, and this information does not replace any kind of personal relationship that you may have with a beloved dietitian, doctor, or any of the above. You have been informed and warned. I am Professor Spira. I practice something called the Mucusless Diet Healing System. I've done so for over 20 years and have been able to help thousands of people transform their lives using the methods first taught by Professor Arnold Ehret in his book, Mucusless Diet Healing System. This is the annotated, revised, and edited edition that we put out. And really quickly, if you would like to get 5 free recipes to show you how to get rid of mucus out of your body, go down below, click the link, sign up for our free newsletter and Insiders Club, and you will get 3 free PDFs, including 5 free recipes, introduction to mucus-free menu planning, as well as my top 10 favorite mucus-free foods. Now, let's get to this protein theory. Think about how you came to learn, how you came to the idea that you need protein, that you need to eat dead animal flesh. You need all this protein. Where did that come from? So most people didn't learn that in a classroom or learn that reading a medical journal. They learned it watching TV or going through a magazine, looking at advertisements. Now check, this is a good example of a protein-based commercial here, and let's just take a look.
Hey, I got you guys a protein shake.
Awesome, I love protein.
I know you love protein. I love protein too.
Yeah, protein rocks.
Are you guys talking about protein? I love protein. I love protein too.
We know you love protein. Protein rocks.
Awesome. Protein rocks.
Protein.
Protein. Protein.
Protein.
Protein, protein.
Not
Should we tell them about
longevity.
these?
Absolutely not.
Now there's a tastier way to get some protein. With tender grilled chicken, corn salsa, and guacamole, Taco Bell's new Power Protein menu is packed with flavor.
Somebody get this man some protein.
So it has been a long tradition in marketing where the protein is the foundation to say, look, you need this. Build the body, repair worn out parts, supply heat and energy, eat protein-rich foods, this concerted effort, nourishing meat, protein family style, or they made this a part of the American family, that meat, it's protein, food energy. It gave people this drive that really feel good about eating foods that may be quite disease forming. More than 55% of your daily protein needs. You can get the protein that you need. You can have McDonald's as much as you want, just because you're getting your protein. You're getting all of what you need. Of course, the protein powders and shakes, huge industry, absolutely bloated with all kinds of different protein shakes and all this stuff to do what? Is this about longevity? Is this about no, the people want to get big. They want to get artificially huge, and that's a whole other issue. But it's almost become this like a religion. Is that show me the evidence of any religious or supernatural claim that you have. There isn't any evidence, you lack faith. And if a vegan comes up and says, here's a video evidence of animal abuse, the first thing somebody says, you don't get enough protein. You lack protein. There isn't any animal abuse. So how did this fetishization of protein get started? So we want to take a look at the historical record and to find out where this concept of protein even came from. So if we go back to 1816, there is this experimental physiologist named Francois Magendie, and he conducted numerous sadistic experiments on animals, including public dissections of animals. And in one very famous case, he starved dogs, and they did a lot of experimentations on dogs. Like today, people talk about all of the mice and that kind of thing. They did plenty of torturing of dogs. That still happens, but you don't want to talk about that. So the starved dogs, they were trying to find out what food substances are absolutely essential for animals. And here's a quote from a book called Food and Man by Lowenberg, which is just a general history of the food of man, or just the history of nutrition kind of textbook. It says, when he, meaning Francois Magendie, fed dogs single foods such as sugar and water or olive oil and water, the animals died. Magendie concluded that animals needed nitrogen in the diet. He knew that both body tissues and many foods contain nitrogen, and he suggested that the nitrogen of the tissues probably came from food. The nitrogen-containing foods were called albuminous foods. So before the term protein was created, they would call it, albumin or albuminous foods, that kind of thing. So here's a guy that took these dogs and was torturing them, essentially starving them. And he concluded that the dog that he gave a little bit of this nitrogenous substance to the one dog, and the other dog died first, and the one that got a little something, they died a little bit later. And so the conclusion was that this was vital substance that he was feeding these tortured animals. And here's a quote from Magendie himself. He said, "I took a dog of 3 years old, fat and in good health, and put it to feed upon sugar alone. It expired the 32nd day of the experiment," just to get a sense of the kind of man that Mr. Magendie was here. And his experiments got so intense that a member of Parliament actually created a bill banning animal cruelty in the UK, describing Magendie's public dissection of a greyhound, in which the beast was nailed down, ear and paw, half the nerves of its face dissected, then left overnight for future dissection, calling Magendie a disgrace to society. So I'm just wanting to give us a sense of where this concept is coming from, the foundation on which people have literally invested their lives into this protein concept, into this protein theory, and invested so much. And that's why it's so hard for people to consider that maybe this thing is 100% totally wrong. There's so much invested in something that is so despicable when you look at the origin of it and the problematic reasoning. So just as a side, you look at the Mucusless Diet Healing System, I filter a lot of information through that particular understanding. It's a different look at physiology and how the human body operates and functions, and we can't get into all of that in this video. But essentially, coming from a mucus-free perspective, the dog that died, the one that got only water and died and didn't get its little supplement, its nutritional supplement to live a little longer, the reason that one died was it essentially suffocated in its own waste, where that type of water fasting for a filthy animal is way too aggressive. It's going to loosen up way too much waste, and that dog survived less amount of time than a dog that was given some kind of substance or some kind of mucus or some kind of whatever, if they want to consider it as nutritional whatever compound that they were giving it. That's going to slow down the elimination of the dog that didn't die. So the term protein first was named and described by Mulder and Berzelius in 1838. Mulder first described it, and then Berzelius named it protein. What does that mean? So he took this word protein with protos meaning first, and originally a theoretical substance thought to be a constituent of foods essential to life. Further studies of the substance he was working on overthrew this, but the word protein stuck. So this idea of something like this first principle, something so primary to life, protein, it's built into the word that these guys created. So in modern nutritional protein theories, they're less than 200 years old. So people are so invested, and they're just, man, you got to get your protein. You need this and that. And the theory isn't even that old. And there's plenty of people that don't that existed and lived into old age that did not supplement protein and need all this kind of stuff, but they don't get into that. Early nutritional scientists such as Carl von Voigt believed that protein was the most important nutrient for maintaining the structure of the body. And there was this old flesh makes flesh theory, and that it has since been overturned, but that's the core of that, or sort of the foundation of that, essence of that is persist through the marketing, through, that's basically passed down from generation to generation. And working with Mendel and applying Liebig's law of the minimum in feeding lab rats, the nutritionally essential amino acids were established. And so then you can continue on there in terms of this analysis of amino acids, as you need these, or what the body supposedly can't create. And, I'm not going to get into that entire thing in this particular video. But, Carl von Voigt found the amount of nitrogen and excreted urea is a measure of the protein turnover. Using a respiration chamber, he could characterize the significance of individual nutrients. So essentially, when you look at the history of the protein theory and many nutrition theories, they are founded by Europeans and European descendants, and there is this Eurocentric viewpoint that the way that they live is already the best on the planet. So the way that they already eat is assumed to be the best. So they created nutritional theories that essentially supported the way that they already ate, assuming that not thinking, not doing. Now, of course, you have the figures like Professor Arnold Ehret, which we'll talk about in a moment, that challenged all of that and said, you guys are 100% wrong, but that his message was suppressed. So these guys become the ones that are the champions of nutrition, the researchers that get all of the credit that with which is really the foundation of how we think about the concepts of protein, the concepts of, we'll talk about calories in a different video. There's so many logical fallacies in the very foundation of these theories. And today, foods deemed to be essential are also identified as potentially disease-causing. For every deceptive ad or every concept that you need this, you can find peer-reviewed studies all over the place to challenge the foundations of these theories, to suggest that maybe meat consumption has high risks associated with it of any, pick your disease, heart disease and stroke and diabetes or whatever the concept is. So the foundation of these theories is based on very weak science. The eating of pus and mucus-forming foods were assumed to be nutritious and necessary and not questioned. and the human degeneracy and disease caused by the uneliminated waste of unnatural foods were not considered, especially by the orthodoxy. Again, you have figures like Professor Arnold Ehret and others in the natural hygienic movement, the back to nature movement, that challenged all of this mess, but the money and the money was behind this. And there was a lot of money to be made, and so this is what persisted. But Professor Arnold Ehret proved that humans do not need protein-rich foods to survive, and in fact can heal in a number of instances when you remove these high-protein foods. And it shifts the focus from the importance of to the importance of internal cleanliness. That is the result of eating mucus-free foods. Ehret says that the erroneous idea that the cells of the body are continually used up by the process of life in their essential substance of protein and must be continually replaced by high protein foods can be and are evidently refuted by my investigations, experiments, and observations on some 100 fasters. Now, of course, Arnold Ehret coined the term intermittent fasting, which has since become popular. Why? Because of marketers that have taken and stolen the concept and turned it into something very different from Ehret's original intention. But he had a sanitarium where he was observing a lot of fasters. He was fasting people, putting people on a mucus-free diet, and seeing that miraculously many diseases, many issues were being overcome. And he himself had showed that you don't need protein-rich foods to do high levels of athletic feats and all these things that he had did, where he riding bike for miles for days, and all kinds of these things that he did. You can check that out. But Ehret also says, one believes that the human engine cannot run a minute without solid food, protein, and fat, and makes the erroneous conclusion that humans die and must die from starvation as soon as all their fat and protein is used up during a fast. So he goes against this idea of you're running on your own flesh, your own protein that you're running on. We go against that 100%. Again, can't really get into the details of all of that in this particular video. Of course, I recommend read the Mucusless Diet Healing System just with an open mind, just for reference, for historical, kind of a historical perspective of something, or just a different perspective. So enter the marketers. As soon as we have this concept of protein, we have a few scientists that are based on their own false theories, their bad theories, that know that the people that are challenging them are being suppressed. The voices like Arnold Ehret's, and there were more, those voices are being suppressed. And so you have these people that are saying, well, this is there's a lot of meat we got to sell, there's a lot of dairy, there's a lot of stuff we have to sell, and we can line this theory up. We can take this scientific theory, we can line it up with what we need to sell, and who cares if it harms people? Who cares if it creates a total nation of sick and diseased people prematurely ill, and running high on this stimulation? Don't worry about that. It's we're going to do this anyway. So in marketing, it is essential that the potential customer feels as if they totally need the product. It's like a fundamental principle of marketing. Make the customer feel as if they have to have the product. If they have to beg, borrow, and steal, they need this product. And we see here this great image of with the baby. Babies need protein today and every day. Who says? This ad says. And this ad, when you see enough of them day in and day out for generations, this gets embedded into your psyche where by today it just becomes this assumption this unquestioned assumption that and fear that comes along if you don't have enough.
Somebody get this man some protein!
You gotta get enough. You gotta get enough. So other things in this, every tissue in your baby's body is built from protein. Baby needs a daily supply of high quality protein to keep pace with the business of growing and to help build up resistance to colds and infections. That's now for us, that's 100% total nut job insanity right there. That you're gonna need this little baby meat puree is gonna help resist colds and infections. When you talk about some false advertising and just dangerous advertising, here you go. Protein Daily helps assure your baby a better start in life. This is all marketing. There's not a lick of science in here. There's not a lick of real science. There's not a lick of any kind of real truth in this. This is what you do if you just want to convince people that you need this. You create the fear. If you don't get enough protein, you're going to be deficient. You're going to die. And that drums on and on. Here's another one. Nourishing meat. Why do we say complete? Because the protein of meat contains all of the amino acids essential to growth and well-being. That's why meat is being served so much oftener, 2 to 3 times a day, and to very young children too. Oh, it's presented as if this is some kind of public service announcement that don't worry. It's the American Meat Institute. Don't worry about that. Just this is have your best interest at heart right here. It's nourishing. We're trying to inform you to help you make the best decision. It's this absolutely diabolical. In the early 20th century, psychologists Scott and Watson contributed applied psychological theory to the field of advertising. And Scott said, quote, "Man has been called the reasoning animal, but he could with greater truthfulness be called the creature of suggestion. He is reasonable, but he is to a greater extent suggestible." And so you got this guy, after leaving the field of academia, Watson turned his attention toward advertising and implemented these concepts of behavioralism into advertising. And this focused on appealing to the basic emotions of the consumer: love, hate, and fear. And of course, so much of the protein marketing is initially based on fear. Based on like, you got to get enough. Then later on, it gets based on love, or different, like you want to get all big and buff because you want to be attractive to whatever. It's marketing. Drink milk at noon and get a refreshing lift. You always need protein. That's why you never outgrow your need for milk. Get the milk idea. 3 glasses every day. The American Dairy Association, representing the dairy farmers in your area. The protein lift. That's just some like marketers just sitting around like, how can we, all right, let's do a childlike cartoony thing of a glass, anthropomorphized glass, put eyes on it and a mouth, and then we can the protein lift, fresh milk, drink milk 3 times a day. And I grew up in that, like, drink milk 3 times a day propaganda kind of thing. And so no science, but people assume the science. There's not like I said, we can go get all kinds of scientific studies that show how disease causing milk is and how it shouldn't even be legal. But it is what it is. They were very, very successful with, and you got to remember that this isn't just started now. These are generations of these marketing campaigns. So they taught your grandparents, your parents, and just the whole aura of the need for this protein, it gets passed down generation after generation after generation. Here's one. Milk makes men. Milk makes men. So vegan and plant-based products have adopted the same flawed protein theories. And so you get all your great plant-based protein, and get your Impossible Burger with all they always put the protein stats, 15 grams of protein, 20 grams of protein on there, when in actuality, so it doesn't. What the assumption is that, oh well, that's going to help you build, that's going to give you your energy, you can get your protein from plant-based. But what if you don't need that? What if you don't need any of that mess? What if even that, the plant-based protein along with the animal-based protein, is causing human illness and degeneration and sickness? So, conclusion, protein-related nutritional theories are relatively new over the last, humans, we've been around a while, a lot longer than 200 years, but folks act like this is the law of the land. The protein theories is based on very flawed science, very questionable science that definitely would need some some very strong counter experiments. Again, that were done with people like Professor Arnold Ehret, but he was locked out of the medical establishment, particularly in the U.S., not as much in Europe, but that's the topic for another day. Large food corporations and associations hired effective marketing firms to indoctrinate the masses to believe in unproven myths about protein to sell more products. And we must review our nutritional belief systems of protein. Once the "you need protein" brainwashing is gone, reconsider the usefulness of that way of thinking. And I like to look at things in terms of the usefulness. Is that a useful way to think? Is it useful to be fearful that you're not going to get enough protein? Is it useful to think like that when protein-rich foods are ones that, even in the current scientific studies, are proven to potentially, they can't say for certain, but they have to word it, that may cause heart disease, may cause strokes, may cause osteoporosis, may cause diabetes, or may contribute to the cause of, so on and so forth. And what I am here to say is there is no paradox. Humans are not supposed to be eating protein-rich foods. There's a reason why disease follows when you have these big protein-rich kind of foods, and then you can go look at the longevity, study the longevity of the weight, the bodybuilders and these folks. Look at I've worked with a number of former bodybuilders, and each one had massive problems with their digestion. They got to a point where they couldn't naturally digest food. So much acid, so much problems, and then you end up with intestinal issues, colon cancers, all that kind of stuff. Why? Where does that come from? Does that come from fruits and vegetables? Or does that come from the residue of rotting flesh in one's colon and intestines that just sit there? So choose wisely. And thank you so much for tuning into this video. If you enjoyed this, please like and share this video. Subscribe to the channel. Go down below. Sign up for the Mucus-free Life Insiders Club. Get your free downloads. And like we say, do your own research. I invite you, go check out the history of the protein theory. Obviously, this was a really quick and dirty overview just to give you a different perspective, one that you've probably not heard of before, hitting it from a different angle, showing you that this world of protein-based fear is particularly insidious, ridiculous, problematic, and we need to educate ourselves to overcome that, start to experiment with the protein, the non-protein kind of ways of life to try that on for size. But but overall, we have some work to do. We have some work to do to counteract which in some ways pretty brilliant marketing that has caused us to have these beliefs that we have. So thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, peace, love, and breath. And before you go, I want you to check this out right here. This is a great video, handpicked it for you. Click right here, and I will see you over there.